Hi, my name's Corey and I am a super spiritual person. And by the end of this video, if you do the things I tell you to do, you too can have a spiritual life like mine. Before the sun comes up, I'm up. And before my feet hit the floor, my knees do. I don't spend the first minutes of my day muddying my mind with the things of this world. I spend them in prayer. In fact, I've become so good at praying that I'm able to cram 4 hours of prayer into just 2 hours of time. After my morning prayer, I head to my favorite meditation location to cleanse my heart and mind. And then I follow that up with an hour of journaling and another hour of reading the ancient scriptures. And now that I've done all that, I'm ready to... Oh shoot, did you forget to pick up Levi? The idea of being a spiritual person conjures up all kinds of images for all kinds of different people. From monks on hidden mountaintop monasteries to people who practice meditation in public to practices that for those of us who aren't on the inside seem really strange. Personally, the image that I always had in my mind of a spiritual person was really a picture of somebody who got up super early in the morning before everybody else and spent a lot of time practicing spiritual disciplines like prayer or scripture reading or meditation. And because of that, I used to try really hard to get up super early and cram a bunch of spiritual exercises into those few minutes that existed between waking up and going to work. Because if I couldn't accomplish that, how could I ever be a spiritual person? Then I read this book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. The author, John Mark Comer, he makes the case that really our rhythms and practices, they produce a certain kind of fruit in our lives. And a life of hurry and cramming and stress produces exhaustion, anxiety, and irritation with everything and everyone around you. Or at least it did for me. Even though the things I was hurrying to and hurrying through were all good things. His advice was to take time to examine your rhythm and ask, is this producing the kind of life that I want? The Apostle Paul, who's actually credited with authoring letters that make up a pretty good chunk of the New Testament. He said that the fruit of the spiritual life is love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control. Pretty much the opposite of what my pace of life was producing. So I started experimenting with new rhythms, which meant letting go of what I thought the super spiritual life looked like. And instead, I started asking what will produce more love and joy and peace in my life. So now, my day starts around 6 or 6:15 in the morning. The first thing to hit the floor are my feet. I don't pray, I don't read, I don't meditate. I still try to not look at my phone, but that's just because I'm not quite ready to face the world yet. I call the first part of my morning wake, make, and take. I wake up, throw on a sweater, and head into the kitchen to quietly make breakfast for my family. It's nothing fancy, it just starts with brewing some coffee, and then getting some Cheerios in a cup, maybe making some scrambled eggs or a smoothie. And while I'm making their breakfast, I also put together a lunch for Levi to take to school. Once everyone's fed, Levi and I hop into the car so that we can drop him off at school. And when you're driving Levi to school, it means you listen to nothing but the best music. Now, I'm the pastor of an entirely digital church, and so the second part of my morning is broken up into 3 different bits depending on the day: care, communicate, and create. Care is all about caring for people. Most days I wake up to notifications for emails, texts, or direct messages from people who are reaching out for care. Since our church is entirely digital, I find that most people interact quite openly and really honestly with me. They bring their hurts, their concerns, their questions, and any challenging life situation to share. As their pastor, I respond to every single one. I think it's an honor and a privilege to have people share their story with you and to invite you to just listen. Sometimes I get to speak into it, to offer some comfort or encouragement, and other times I just pray for them. But often I find folks are mostly looking for a non-judgmental space to share, to have somebody hear and hold their story with them. And it's tempting to want to try and fix things for people and offer advice, but the reality is that's not really what people are looking for. So that's why I call it the care section and not the fix it section. Some of my morning is also spent on creating. This is about creating the content that goes into our weekly videos. It means researching topics, translating scriptures from their original language, learning about the historical context, and coming up with good video content to put out. It's about creating material that helps people follow Jesus and grow spiritually. Now, each day I pause what I'm doing at about 11 a.m. to work out. And I love my midday workout because it's a chance to clear my head and reset mentally and physically. My typical routine takes about 30 minutes, and depending on the day, I'm either doing some resistance training or I'm taking my dog Denver for a run in our neighborhood. I find that good physical exercise serves not just my body, but my soul too. For one thing, it gives me an outlet for my ambition. If you've never heard of Eugene Peterson, he's the one who wrote a modern-day translation of the Bible called The Message. And he once advised young pastors who had dreams of growing large churches and maybe getting famous. He advised them to go pound pavement. Better to channel your ambition into a hobby or a habit like exercise than to channel it into the church. The church should just be about loving people, he thought. I like that. After the workout and shower, I start my afternoon session of work, which either means recording video or editing video. If it's recording, I get all the gear and the equipment out and set up to record. But if it's editing, then I sit back down at my desk and get to it. Most days I eat lunch while I'm working, and every day I eat the same thing. Oatmeal with unsweetened nut butter and sliced apples with a dash of cinnamon. I typically work on video recording and editing all afternoon until 3 p.m. That's my hard stop. I can't productively stare at a screen much longer than that anyway. And this is where I've fit in what used to be a stressful rush job in my mornings. I sit down and I pray and journal and read for about an hour. First, I write in my line-a-day journal. It's a 5-year journal, meaning each day I can see what I wrote on that day last year and the year before that. I'm into my 3rd year of using this thing and I absolutely love it. And then I pray. But I find sitting eyes closed, talking to an empty room really difficult and a little bit strange. And so instead, I write my prayers. And then I read a bit from a book that reflects on ancient wisdom literature, and I also read a chapter of the Bible. And these words connect me to the one that I want to live my life like, and that's Jesus. Then I spend the rest of the hour reading something else, something to expand my horizons, my learning, or my interests. Right now, it's a book on blue zones, which are places on Earth that have a whole lot of people who live to 100 years old or more. And the book kind of tracks their lives and their lifestyles. Before that, it was a book on introverts, and before that, it was a book on the gut microbiome. Look, I love reading widely because it's fun to learn and it gives me lots of stuff to talk about with a wide variety of people. And then at about 4 p.m., I head back into the kitchen to either prep the elements for dinner, to chop vegetables and so on, or to make a list to head to the grocery store. Then it's off to pick up Levi and home for dinner and an evening with the family. We love to just play around, read books, play games, play music, or watch TV. I especially love watching hockey at night, especially if the Leafs are playing. And then I finish my evening off by reading some fiction before bed. Nothing too intense, just something in low light until my eyes start to get droopy, and then it's off to sleep. And listen, that's a day if everything goes right. Everything goes according to plan, but not every day is like that. And sometimes life can be messy and I miss all of it. And I know you get that, right? But this is what I'm experimenting with right now. And while it may not be the monk life I thought I needed in order to be a spiritual person, It's a rhythm that's producing a little more love, joy, and peace for me right now. It helps me feel connected to God and to love and serve others, especially my family. Now, I don't share any of this with you to say, this is how you should live your life. I totally get that I have a weird schedule and I have a weird job. I share it instead to prompt the question, what reasonable rhythms or practices could help change your spiritual life? I say reasonable because I know what it's like to have an unreasonable expectation of what a spiritual life should look like and then never be able to live up to that expectation. I mean, we can't all be monks on mountaintops or meditate on the front lawn or work from home digital pastors with a free hour every afternoon. The point is, let go of that ideal picture of the spiritual person and instead just start experimenting with things that might work in your daily life. I mean, what would produce more love, more joy, and more peace for you? And whatever you decide to try, just keep in mind, it's just for now. It doesn't have to be forever. I mean, what worked last year didn't work for me this year. What worked in your 20s might not work for you in your 30s. And what worked when you were raising a family might not work now that your kids have all moved out of the house. It's an experiment. And hey, let us know what you're trying in the comments below because we'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already and you'd like more ideas and tools for growing spiritually, then click the join link in the description below. That'll take you to a form on our website so you can join the email list, which we use to send out weekly emails designed to do exactly that, help you become the spiritual person you want to be. And if any of this has been of interest to you, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button, the like button, and that notification bell because that's going to let you know whenever we put out new videos and it's going to let us know that you're here. And let me tell you, we're so glad that you're here.